Okay, welcome to a new episode of PEMDAS Master, and today we're going to talk about how to graph cube roots. So the parent function for a cube root is if you took the cube root of -1, you would get -1, because -1 times -1 times -1 equals -1. And if you took the cube root of 0, you would get 0, because 0 times 0 is 0. And if you took the cube root of 1, you would get 1. So the parent function of a cube root will look like this, where further on it will become 8 and 2. And it'll become -8 and 2 here. This will be -1 and 1, and this will be +1 and 1. So from here we know that we're just making changes to this parent function, and we'll always use this parent function. Well, here we're inside of a radical, and if we're inside of a radical, it's always affecting x and only x. Inside a radical affects x. Changes x. But it will always do, you're always going to do the opposite. So that means instead of multiplying by 2, this function is going to be x divided by 2. So we can write our y's the same, -1, 0, and 1. But now we would write x divided by 2 here. So we take the -1 and we write it over 2. And we take 0 and we write it over 2. And we take 1 and we write it over 2. If it is plus, then it's the same thing as the opposite, which means it's going to be x minus 2. Because it's still in the radical. We're still going to write our y's, these 3 numbers. We won't change that at all. But instead, we take these numbers and we subtract 2. 0 minus 2 and 1 minus 2. And those are our changes inside the radical. Outside of the radical, changes y. So here, this 2 is outside the radical, so it's the same thing as 2 times y, and that's what we would write, 2y. So we would still write the same x's from the parent function, but now we take our y's and we multiply them. 2 times -1, 2 times 0, and 2 times 1. Over here, we can write it as y plus 2. So we can still write our x coordinates, but now our y's are going to be plus 2. And that's how you graph cube roots.